कल्पनाजाल गम्भीरोदारमूर्तये नमः समन्तभद्राय समन्तस्फुरणत्विषे. I think we can start again by saying the refuge and Bodhicitta, and then the four immeasurables. So these will be on this set of copies and on page 4. So again we say 3 times. The first time I say and you repeat, and the second and third time we try it together. Buddham cha dharmam cha ganottamam cha yavadhi bodhim sharanam prayami danadikrityaischa kritairmayebhir buddho bhaveyam jagato hitaya. Okay, now we try together. Buddham cha dharmam cha ganottamam cha yavadhi bodhim sharanam prayami danadikrityaischa kritairmayebhir buddho bhaveyam jagato hitaya. Buddham cha dharmam cha ganottamam cha yavadhi bodhim sharanam prayami danadikrityaischa kritairmayebhir buddho bhaveyam jagato hitaya. Now we do the same thing for the 4 immeasurables. The first time I say and you repeat, and then twice we say together. Sattva sukhena samprayujyeran sattva dukhena viyujyeran sattva sukhena naviyujyeran sattva hitam labheran. Now together. Sattva sukhena samprayujyeran sattva dukhena viyujyeran sattva sukhena naviyujyeran sattva hitam labheran sattva sukhena samprayujyeran sattva dukhena viyujyeran sattva sukhena naviyujyeran sattva hitam labheran. Now we can go to the Bodhicharya Avatar proper. And yesterday we read 7 verses, I think. Yes. So now we can try to read them together. Like at least I will read each verse twice. So one time you can repeat after me. The second time I read it, we read it together. Om Namo Buddhaya. Om Namo Buddhaya. Okay, the second time together. Okay. Sugatan sasutan sadharamakayan pranipatya darato khilans chavandyan sugatatmaja samvaravataram Kathayishyami yathagamam samasat. Now we try together. Sugatan sasutan sadharmakayan pranipatya khilamscha vandyan Sugatatmaja samvaravataram kathayishyami yathagamam samasat. Now the next one. Nahi kimchidapurvamatra vachyam nacha samgranthana kaushalam mamasti ataeva name parartha chinta swamano vasayitum kritam mayedam. Now we try together. Nahi kimchidapurvamatra vachyam nacha sangranthana kaushalam mamasti ataeva name parartha chinta swamano vasayitum kritam mayedam. Mamata vadanena yati vriddhim kushalam bhavayitum prasada vegaha. Athamat samadhatureva pashyed aparopyena matopi sarthakoyam. Now together. Mamata vadanena yati vriddhim kushalam bhavayitum prasada vegaha athamat samadhatureva pashyed aparopyena matopi sarthakoyam. Kshana sampadiyam sudurlabha pratilabdha purushartha sadhani yadinatra vichintyate hitam punarapyesha samagamah kutaha. Together. Kshana sampadiyam sudurlabha pratilabdha purushartha sadhani yadinatra vichintyate hitam punarapyesha samagamah kutaha. Ratrau yatha megha ghanandhakare vidyukshanam darshayati prakasham buddhanubhavena tatha kadachil lokasya punyeshu matih kshanam syat. Together. Ratrau yatha megha ghanandhakare vidyukshanam darshayati prakasham buddhanubhavena tatha kadachil lokasya punyeshu matih kshanam syat. Tasmat shubham durbalameva nityam balam tu papasya mahatsu ghoram tajjiyate nyena shubhena kena sambodhicittam yadinamannasyat. Together. Tasmat shubham durbalameva nityam balam tu papasya mahatsu ghoram tajjiyate nyena shubhena kena sambodhicittam yadinamannasyat. Kalpananalpan pravichintayadbhir drishtam munindrairhitameta yatas sukhe neva sukham pravruddham utplavayatya pramitan janaughan. Now together. Kalpananalpan pravichintayadbhir drishtam munindrairhitameta yatas sukhe neva sukham pravruddham utplavayatya pramitan janaughan. I should tell you two small points which could help you when we recite together. The important point in Sanskrit verses, one of the important points, is the length of the vowels. So you can notice that sometimes on top of the vowels there is this sign. This sign means that the vowel is long. So a is short and a with that sign on top is a. I, u, u. Also, in Sanskrit, the vowels e and o are always long. So there is no sign above the vowels e and o because in Sanskrit short e and short o do not exist. So once you know this much, actually it's quite easy to learn the rhythm of the Sanskrit verses. As you can see, there is a certain rhythm in the verses. So in brief, I'll just go through the 7 verses that we read. The first verse contains an auspicious beginning with a prostration of the 3 jewels towards the 3 jewels and anyone else worthy of salutation, and then it tells us what the author is going to talk about and how. So he's going to talk about engaging in the practices of the Bodhisattvas. He will do so according to the Buddhist scriptures, and he will do so in brief. So this is the first verse. The second verse tells us that actually there is nothing new to be said, and the author says he's not very capable in composing a text, and therefore he doesn't speculate that necessarily, he doesn't presume that this is going to help others. But he writes this to influence his own mind. And the following verse explains how that can happen. It is going to increase the force, the current of his good disposition towards cultivating virtue. If by any chance somebody else who has a similar inner disposition is going to see the text, then due to these two, this composition may be purposeful. The next verse functions as an introduction of sorts to taking up the practices of the Bodhisattvas. The next verse tells us that the special conditions that allow one to actually practice the Dharma and take up Bodhicitta are very difficult to obtain. And once they are obtained, all the possible goals of a person's life can be achieved. And the possible goals mean happiness within samsara or liberation which is beyond samsara. If one does not reflect on how beneficial this situation is and takes appropriate step towards practice, then the likelihood that it's going to be encountered again is quite low. It's very, very low. You remember we mentioned the example of the turtle. The next verse offers a simile. The simile is the simile of the very dark night where there are many clouds. It's like a thunderstorm. And just for a brief instant, everything can become clear thanks to a flash of lightning. You know, a flash of lightning doesn't last very long. So if you compare how long one night is and how brief a flash of lightning is, this is how this metaphor works. And here, the flash of lightning is the mind going towards what is meritorious, and it does so thanks to the influence, the positive influence of the Buddhas. The following verse is connected to this one. It said that, therefore, goodness is always weak. And by goodness, it means virtue. And virtue is like this flash of lightning, while the non-virtue is like the very long dark night. So how can we overcome this situation? How can we overcome all this non-virtue that we have accumulated, who knows since when? Since beginning of samsara, we might have accumulated a lot of non-virtue. Well, luckily there is Bodhicitta. So he introduces the point that Bodhicitta is a lot of merit. That's what is implicitly being introduced. And this is reinforced by the next verse, which tells us that the Lord among sages, so the Buddhas, thinking for very many eons, kalpas, have found that only this is of benefit. And how does it bring benefit? With happiness, increased by happiness alone, it actually rescues limitless masses of sentient beings. And here briefly I mentioned a point made by the commentator, which is somebody might ask, how can you say that the whole Bodhisattva path is just happiness and pleasure? When indeed we see in the Jatakas that the Bodhisattvas, Shakyamuni Buddha himself as a Bodhisattva in his previous lifetimes underwent tremendous hardship. And the answer is, for a genuine Bodhisattva, actually that hardship is happiness. It's not hardship. So that is the point. They have kshanti. They have genuine forbearance. So even when something apparently very painful happens, they have no problem. So I think this is where we are. We stopped here. So now we can read the next, which is verse 8. Now for a couple of times you can just repeat after me. Bhava dukkha shatani tartu kamair api sattva vyasanani hartu kamaihi bahu saukhya shatani bhoktu kamair navimocyam hi sadaiva bodhicittam bhavadukkha shatani tartu kamair api sattva vyasanani hartu kamaihi bahusaukhya shatani bhoktu kameir navimotyam hi sadeva bodhicittam. We try again. Bhava dukkha shatani tartu kameir api sattva vyasanani hartu kameihi bahu saukhya shatani bhoktu kameir navimotyam hi sadeva bodhicittam. This verse we can see somewhat connected to what was said earlier, that this Kshana Sampad has the ability to accomplish all of human aims. Now we have a kind of extended list of what our aims might be. The first one listed is by those people who wish to cross Tartukamehi many hundreds or hundreds of sufferings of existence. Bhava, existence, here means more or less the same as samsara. So those who wish for liberation, basically, they want to be away from this suffering. Also, those who wish to remove hartukamehi, the troubles or afflictions of sentient beings, sattva vyasanani. So those who want to benefit others. And also those who want to enjoy, experience, bhoktukamehi, many hundreds of different forms of happiness or pleasure, bahu saukhya shatani. So all these three types of people, or the same person who wants all of these, should never abandon the bodhicitta, because bodhicitta accomplishes all of this. So it accomplishes both happiness within samsara and happiness outside of samsara. Let me see if there is much added in the commentary. Yes. He does tell something. Those who want to cross the hundreds here means limitless masses of suffering, such as the sufferings of the hells, etc., so the sufferings of the six realms, who want to cross them means they want to abandon them. So, who are they? He explains, Shravaka Pratyeka Buddha Gotraihi. So people who have the inner inclination of Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas, their wish is to go beyond samsara. So this is the first type. Then, those who want to remove the many types of sufferings, such as birth, decay, death, etc., of all sentient beings. This refers to those who have the gotra, the inner lineage of bodhisattvas. And then people who want to experience the many different types of happiness or pleasures which can be obtained by being born in the higher realms, like among deities or among human beings. Those people too should never abandon bodhicitta. So bodhicitta can accomplish that too, because it ensures a continuity of good births. Perhaps here already I should start mentioning about the idea of gotra. Maybe I have talked about it, but not during the Bodhicitta Avatar talks. I have used the word Gotra, I'm sorry, even without translating it really. Gotra means literally something like a family lineage. Now this word Gotra is very important in the Buddhist tradition, especially in the Mahayana. This word Gotra is used to refer to a kind of inner lineage, a propensity towards a certain type of practice. And I will once again talk about this when we will read the later verse. However, let me introduce it a little bit. The idea is that there are 5 Gotras, 5 lineages. The first one is the Shravaka. The second one is Pratyeka Buddha, Bodhisattva. Then there is the non-fixed lineage, and there is those which are called Icchantika, those who are always attached to their own wishes. They have no wish for liberation. So, the word Shravaka, which you might be familiar with already, is usually translated as hearer, someone who hears or listens. Actually, this word has 2 main meanings. One meaning is that someone who hears Vedharma from somebody else, and the other one is somebody who makes other people listen to Vedharma. So Shravakas have these 2 activities. They learn Vedharma from somebody else, and they speak of Vedharma to somebody else. The Pali word Savaka, you know the great Shravakas, such as Shariputra, Mahamaudgalyayana, etc. So those who are of the Shravaka Gotra have an inner wish to become free from samsara. This is their wish. The main wish is they want to be free from samsara. One point I would like to make is that it is true that in the Mahayana Sutras, in certain contexts, it is said that they do not have that much compassion or that much wish to help others. But it's not too literal in the sense that it's only a comparative term. This is only in comparison to bodhisattvas, who are ready to take up a very long-term path in order to become complete Buddhas. So compared to them, then these statements are made, not in an absolute sense. Shravaka practitioners also practice the 4 immeasurables, so they are compassionate, definitely. That it's not the idea that they have no compassion. That's not the point. Also, many Shravaka practitioners might not believe that it's even possible for them to become Buddhas. This is another point we should consider. If they do not have trust in the Mahayana Sutras, they might think that only very, very, very few selected people can take up the Bodhisattva path. So, from their perspective, if their faith is only in the non-Mahayana teachings, then they might also think that it's just not possible for them. So these kind of people are Shravaka Gotra. They have this inner lineage of Shravakas. Similar, very similar to the Shravakas, but usually considered to be of sharper wisdom, are the Pratyeka Buddhas. Pratyeka Buddhas sometimes is translated as solitary Buddhas. But again, we should not take it literally, because what it means is that they do not listen to the Dharma from somebody else. They learn through the observation of things, especially of corpses, for example. So on their own, without somebody else teaching them, the Pratyeka Buddhas can understand dependent arising. And by meditating on that, they're able to obtain liberation from samsara. And that's their wish also. Whether they are alone or not depends from which type of Pratyeka Buddhas they are. Some Pratyeka Buddhas live in groups, and some Pratyeka Buddhas live alone. So one could ask, if they live in groups, how is it that they don't hear the Dharma from somebody else? Well, that is because Pratyeka Buddhas only come about, only arise in periods when the Dharma is not available. So right now, according to the Buddhist teachings, we cannot have Pratyeka Buddhas. This is not the time for Pratyeka Buddhas. There's specific times during the eons, the world cycles. You know that the Dharma first is flourishing, then slowly becomes Pratirupa, it becomes just a semblance of the Dharma, and then at some point it disappears. When the Dharma has disappeared, and when the next Buddha has yet not arrived, that period is when there are Pratyeka Buddhas. So, people who are of Pratyeka Buddha Gotra also strive to obtain liberation from samsara. Then there are the Bodhisattva Gotra. Bodhisattva Gotra means somebody who has Bodhicitta. Bodhicitta here means primarily the wish to obtain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. So, in this verse, the first quarter of the verse is referring to the Shravaka Pratyeka Buddha inclination, and then the second quarter of the verse is referring to the Bodhisattva inclination. Some people do not have a fixed Gotra. What it means is, depending on conditions, they might practice either towards their own liberation, or they might practice as bodhisattvas. Also depending on whom they come in contact with. So this is called the non-fixed Gotra. And lastly, there is a type of Gotra called Icchantika, and these people never want either liberation or omniscience. They do not have the potential to obtain Buddhahood. Now, this might sound strange when I say this, and I have to explain something more, which is, in the Mahayana tradition, there are two views about these 5 lineages. According to one view, this is a teaching of definitive meaning. What it means is, there are really 5 Gotras, and it's just like that. If somebody becomes an Arhat, for them samsara has finished. If somebody becomes a Pratyeka Buddha, samsara has finished. Only those of the Bodhisattva Gotras become complete Buddhas. Those of a non-fixed Gotra depends from conditions. And the Icchantika will never obtain liberation or Buddhahood. They can still practice and get some result, but it will all be within samsara. This is the position usually of the Yogacara school. The Yogacara school upholds usually this position. You might know the Yogacara school from Xuanzang. Xuanzang and his disciple Kuei-chi, they were Yogacara exponents. Then there's the other position, the position that the 5 Gotras are only provisional. Means is not ultimate meaning. According to this position, everyone eventually will become a Buddha. The only difference is this. Those people who are Bodhisattva Gotra will not have to first obtain the intermediate results of Shravaka or Pratyeka Buddha. So according to that position, when an Arhat obtains Nirvana, that's only the notion of Nirvana. Because according to that position, there is no Nirvana without omniscience. So only when one obtains complete Buddhahood, one is really completely beyond samsara. So what happens in that case is that when the Shravakas or Pratyeka Buddhas obtain this notion that they are in Nirvana, in fact, they are in deep meditative states. And then the Buddha will wake them from those states and will tell them, now you have to start practicing the Bodhisattva path. At that point, they will take up the Bodhisattva path, and it will take them a shorter time to become Buddhas compared to somebody who starts from scratch. So you can find this teaching in the Lotus Sutra, the Saddharma Pundarika Sutra. If you read the Saddharma Pundarika Sutra, you will find the teaching of Ekayana, of just one vehicle, and you find this kind of explanation. I think more or less. So, according to this idea also, there is no ultimate Icchantika. Even these people who look like they have no interest in liberation at all, it's just a matter of time. They will all eventually become liberated. And this idea that the Gotras are not ultimate is based on the idea of Buddha Gotra. Like everyone has the essence of a Tathagata. Everyone has the Garbha. The Garbha means something like a womb or embryo of a Tathagata. So all sentient beings have the potential for Buddhahood. This potential, sometimes in English is also called Buddha nature. So those who uphold Buddha nature don't believe that these Gotras are ultimate. This is the difference. And I think Shantideva falls in this category somehow. We might see this later. It's not entirely clear, of course. It's not so easy to understand. That's a very subtle point. But it's good to know that this actually was a matter of a lot of discussion in the Mahayana tradition, also in East Asia. In East Asia, there were debates about this point, especially between Xuanzang's followers, the followers of the Yogacara tradition, and the other schools. Most other schools, as far as I know, of Chinese Buddhism uphold the doctrine of Buddha nature and believe that everyone can become a Buddha. But the Yogacara school does not really agree with this. And so they had some kind of debate about this point. And yes, it's a very subtle point, it's true. But sometimes it's worth reflecting it, because through reflection we can clarify also, if we trust Buddha nature, we can have some better idea of why it's a convincing doctrine. So this is what the commentator Prajñākaramati has introduced at this point while commenting on this verse 8. He also said, he gives an alternative explanation. He says, so we can either distribute these three types of wishes to different people, or we can say it's the same people. That those people who want Buddhahood also might want liberation and also might want to have good rebirths. So it's the idea of the gradual path as well. One develops the minimum minimum possible wish to practice Buddhism is to wish for happiness within samsara. That corresponds to the third wish listed here. And on top of that, then one can develop liberation and then omniscience. And omniscience is liberation and omniscience. Like a Buddha is also liberated from samsara. We have to remember this. It's not that the Buddha is bound by samsara. So it can be the same person who has a wish for all these three. So if we have a wish for both Abhyudaya and Nishreyasa, both happiness within samsara, liberation, and also for omniscience, we should never abandon bodhicitta. That is the point of this verse. And so, in this sense, we can say that this verse points out that bodhicitta is the cause of twofold benefit. Benefit for oneself and benefit for others. Therefore, we should never abandon bodhicitta. Okay, now we know the overall meaning of the verse. We can read it once more just by repeating. Bhavadukkha shatani tartu kameir api sattva vyasanani hartu kameihi bahusaukhya shatani bhoktu kameir navimochyam hi sadeva bodhicittam bhavacharaka bandhano varakaha sugatanam suta uchyate kshanena sanaramara loka vandaniyo bhavati smodita eva bodhicitte. So now we try together. Bhavacharaka bandhano varakaha sugatanam suta uchyate kshanena sanaramara loka vandaniyo bhavati smodita eva bodhicitte. So a person who is wretched, varaka, and who is bound, bandhana, within the prison, charaka, of existence, of samsara. That person, in one moment, in one instant, kshanena, is called son of the Sugatas, son of the Buddhas, Sugatanam Sutta, and is worthy of being worshipped, worthy of being saluted, vandaniyo, by the whole world, loka, including humans and the long-lived deities, as soon as bodhicitta has arisen. So the emphasis of this verse is that even the first moment of the cittotpada, the very first moment, just one instant where one develops this sincere wish to become a Buddha for all sentient beings, just that one moment has tremendous results. So one completely changes from being just somebody bound by the kleshas, bound by the mental afflictions, that is the chain that makes one stay within samsara, to being one of the sons of a Buddha, being the crown prince of the emperor of the Dharma. So being a future emperor of the Dharma. That's the difference. So it's a huge difference. And in fact, they also list many of the effects that this one moment of mind can have. This indicates that also it is not entirely easy to develop that wish and take up that vow sincerely. However, there is nothing else very difficult in the verse, and the commentator does not expand it much, so we can just read it once more. Bhavacharaka bandhano varakaha sugatanam suta uchyate kshanena sanaramara loka vandaniyo bhavati smodita eva bodhicitte. Ashuchi pratimam imam grihitva jinaratna pratimam karotyanargham rasajatam ativa vedhaniyam sudridham grannata bodhicitta samyam. Now we can try together. Ashuchi pratimam imam grihitva jinaratna pratimam karotyanargham rasajatam ativa vedhaniyam sudridham grannata bodhicitta samyam. So this verse starts with offering us some similes for bodhicitta. Now the simile is that of a kind of magical potion, something which is capable of changing base metal to something very precious. That's the idea. Like the philosopher's stone, something that changes iron into gold. So what bodhicitta can do is that it can take this impure frame, it means our body, you know, Ashubha Bhavana, the meditation on impurity, so you know what is meant, and transform it into the invaluable frame of a Buddha, the jewel frame of a Buddha, Jinaratna Pratimam. So in that sense, it's like this magical potion which comes in contact with a base metal and turns it into gold. This is the quality of bodhicitta. So bodhicitta is a very effective potion. And there are some, there's a feature of this verse which is not perceptible in translation, which is this text overall is in very regular Sanskrit, but there are some special touches. So for example, this word, which I translated as seize it, is grannata in the Sanskrit, and this is not a regular form. This is not the normal Sanskrit form. Shantideva has used the form which is found in the Buddhist Agama. So sometimes the Buddhist sutras use some special forms. And Shantideva, while composing his poetry, has given a touch of a Buddhist Agama. So this is an interesting feature when we read the text in the Sanskrit. Why is the jina Ratna. Why is the victor? Jina means the Buddha is a victor. He has victory over Mara. So why is he a jewel? Because it is very difficult to obtain him, etc. And in what sense is it invaluable? We cannot set up a price to this kind of jewel. Well, one reason is because the good qualities of a Buddha are more than the good qualities of anything else within the three realms of samsara. And also because it's impossible to know the limit of those good qualities. So when we can put a price or say the value of something, it means we know how far the good qualities of that particular thing go. But in the case of the Buddhas, it's impossible to even try to enumerate all their good qualities. So because there is no possibility to actually know the limit of the good qualities of a Buddha, the Buddha is an invaluable jewel. Another useful point of the commentary here is that it shows where this comes from. Now, Shantideva in the very first verse told us that he was going to explain in accordance with the Buddhist textual tradition. So, where does this come from? And Prajñākaramati shows that it comes from the Gandavyuha Sutra. You know the Gandavyuha Sutra? Actually, you probably know it in a different way, because the Gandavyuha should be a part of the Avatamsaka. The Huayan? I think so. So it's actually very famous in East Asia as well. And it contains the story of Sudhana, who goes and learns from many, many bodhisattvas. And you can check, if my memory is right, this story is also found in the Borobudur. If you check the Borobudur, there's one level of the Borobudur which depicts the story of Sudhana meeting some of his teachers. So it comes from these sutras where it is said, he gives this example of a type of potion which, when it comes in contact with a small quantity of iron, I think, or copper, it can make it into gold. And however much base metal comes in contact with that potion will not change, will not be affected. Same thing for Bodhicitta. So, Bodhicitta can transform our ordinary situation and is not touched by our ordinary situation. More or less, this is the meaning in the sutra. So we can see that there is a kind of direct continuity between the Buddhist sutras and the words of Shantideva. Okay, maybe we can read it once more. Ashuchi pratimam imam grihitva jinaratna pratimam karotyanargham rasajatam ativa vedhaniyam sudradham grannata bodhicitta samyam. Okay. Suparikshitam aprameyadhibhir bahumulyam jagadeka sarthavahaihi gatipattana vipravasa shilaha Sudridham grannata bodhicitta ratnam suparikshitam aprameyadhibhir bahumulyam jagadeka sartavahaihi gatipattana vipravasa shilaha sudridham grannata bodhicitta ratnam. Now the simile here is the merchants, basically. Merchants go to many merchant towns. These merchant towns are called pattana in Sanskrit. You might come across this term if you look at some town names in India. So pattana, the word pattana refers not just to a town but to a market town. So sentient beings are compared to people who are in the habit of traveling abroad from one to another market town. And what's a market town? The 6 realms. Gati is the 6 realms. So they're like merchants because, and what do they use? What is the money that they use to buy these various things in the karma, the merit? So with their good and bad merit, they end up buying different things in the different realms. They might buy something good or something not so good. And since they're looking for something precious, they're looking for something very valuable, then those who have an immeasurable wisdom, aprameyadhi, and those who are the only caravan leaders of the world. Now, what does caravan leader mean? Caravan here means like a merchant's caravan. It's not like modern day businessmen, but we have to think in ancient times. The Sartavahas are the leaders of the caravans. So, for example, when the Buddha was a Sartavaha, there are stories that they went on a trip by boat, and the Buddha was the one who was able to, well, the Buddha as a Bodhisattva was the one who was able to save all the other merchants and bring them back safely. So, the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are the only caravan leaders of the world. So they are the only guides in showing sentient beings their direction to find something precious. And what they found is that what is very precious is the jewel called Bodhicitta. So we should seize it very firmly, because we keep on looking for precious things to buy with our merit or demerit, and that is the really valuable thing. Again, the commentator points out that this comes from the same sutra. It comes from the Gandavyuha, where it is explained about a very special type of jewel, and Bodhicitta is like that, like the best of jewels. So, for example, more specifically, the worth of all the roots of merit of deities, human beings, Shravakas, Pratyeka Buddhas, whether they are root of merits which are defiled or undefiled, all of those do not compare to the value of this special great jewel, which is the giving birth to Bodhicitta. So there is no merit anywhere which can compare to the merit of giving rise to Bodhicitta. This is what we find in the Gandhavyuha Sutra. So that is how this statement in verse 11 is connected to the Agama. Okay, now we can repeat it. Suparikshitam aprameyadhibhir bahumulyam jagadekasarthavahaihi gatipattana vipravasashilaha sudridham grannata bodhicittaratnam. Okay, now he's going to show another special feature of Bodhicitta, another unique feature of Bodhicitta. Kadaliva phalam vihaya yati kshayamanyat kushalam hi sarvameva satatam phalati kshayam nayati prasavatyeva tu bodhicitta vrikshaha. We try together. Kadaliva phalam vihaya yati kshayamanyat kushalam hi sarvameva satatam phalati kshayam nayati prasavatyeva tu bodhicitta vrikshaha. So here Bodhicitta is compared to a very special tree. Indeed, according to the commentator, it's like the Kalpataru. Kalpataru is the tree of wishes. It means when we have a wish, we go to that tree and that wish is fulfilled. So, luckily we are in a place where everyone has seen plantain trees. So we can understand this easily. You know how plantain trees grow? They give fruit and then they die. And then later a new plantain tree will arise. So any type of merit is just like that. When we produce merit, that merit creates a certain continuity with maybe within the mainstream or the different explanations of how that continuity works. And at that time, when the conditions are there, it comes to maturation. There's a good result. That result in itself, since it is a resultant state, is undetermined. It's neither virtue nor non-virtue. It's undetermined. So in turn, it's not going to cause a new continuity. So that means that when there is an act of merit, after it has given that result, finished. So that merit gives birth once and then it goes to destruction. Same thing like the plantain tree. But that's the special quality of Bodhicitta, that it continues to give results. So the merit that comes from Bodhicitta is not like any ordinary merit. It keeps on giving results. It continues to offer the result of a continuity of births within either the human realm or the deity realm until we obtain Buddhahood. And this again is connected to a sutra, and it is explained that if you think of drops of water, of a drop of water fallen in the great ocean, that drop of water is going to last for as long as that ocean is there. So that drop of water will be indistinguishable from that ocean. It will not easily disappear. So similarly, when one dedicates a root of merit, so any kind of merit that one does, if it is dedicated towards Buddhahood, so when we do the third type of bodhicitta, the bodhicitta of dedication, that merit will not be destroyed until we obtain Buddhahood. This is one reason why it is emphasized that when we do any practice as Mahayana practitioners, the dedication is very important. We should do the dedication well so that that merit is not destroyed. Otherwise, that merit will have only the result of ordinary merit. But by linking it to this very vast intention of bodhicitta, that merit becomes indestructible until we obtain Buddhahood. So this idea is implicitly alluded to in this verse according to the commentator. Again, it's connected to the words of the Buddha Vajana, the Agama. Okay, we can read the verse once more. Kadaliva palam vihaya yati kshayamanyat kushalam hi sarvameva satatam palati kshayam nayati prasavatyeva tu bodhicitta vrikshaha. Okay. I think in terms of the verses today we can stop here. That there is something else that I had found. Let me see. Something connected, of course, with the bodhicitta, and this comes from a commentary on the Perfection of Wisdom Sutras. Something helpful to understand at least I found it helpful to understand the right attitude of those who want to develop bodhicitta and practice the Mahayana. So these are called the 8 thoughts of a great person. Ashtau Mahapurusha Vitarka. So the 8 thoughts of a great person. So this is a dharma for someone who has small wishes, not for somebody who has got big wishes. Now, what do they mean by wishes? I'm trying to translate a certain word, the word ichcha. Ichcha means like wanting something. So people who want many things, well, this kind of dharma is not for them. This is the type of dharma for people who want few things. This dharma is for someone who is contented, santushtasya. It's for somebody who likes solitude, pravivikta. Actually, sometimes there is a slight misconception about the Mahayana. Like, many people think that Mahayana practitioner must always be in a big crowd. But in fact, if you carefully read the Mahayana teachings, there's a very strong emphasis that it is good to spend time in isolation. So many great bodhisattvas used to stay in the forest. They even used to take up Dhuta Guna. Dhuta Guna is, you might know it by the Thai pronunciation of the Pali word, which is Tutong. You know the forest monks of Thailand, they do Tutong. that's in Pali is Dutanga, in Sanskrit usually is Dutaguna. It means they take up extra rules, they go to the forest and they stay there in isolation. This is what is emphasized in the sutras. So usually the bodhisattvas will stay with others out of necessity, so, or either because they can't stay in isolation, or because they are at such a level that it doesn't matter. So there's different cases. But in fact, you find that the Mahayana Sutras emphasize quite a lot the necessity of spending time in viveka. You find even in Shantideva, when it comes to the chapter on shamatha, he describes the beauty of staying in the forest with the trees, etc., etc. So this is, I know for not everyone is familiar with this idea, and some people might ask, then what about the Vimalakirti Nirdesha Sutra? What about Vimalakirti? He was a householder with many people, etc., etc. True. And Vimalakirti could make a whole Buddha field appear in his room. The room didn't become bigger, the Buddha field didn't become smaller, yet he could make a whole Buddha field appear in his room. He could also have discussions with Manjushri in person as they were equals. So if somebody is in that position, of course there is no problem. But usually, in most Buddhist traditions that I know, traditionally it is emphasized that one should try to spend some amount of time in solitude. And this is a very simple point of training. We all understand. The easiest way to avoid that our mental defilements arise is to remove ourselves from the objects of those mental defilements. So easiest way to start even seeing them is that we remove the possible objects of aversion and attachment, and then we focus on observing our mind. For most people, realistically, some periods of solitude are going to help in that direction. So, of course, this also goes for the Mahayana tradition. And in fact, if now you're wondering, just in case you're wondering, then what about Vajrayana? Because some people think, well, they can do anything. But actually, that's not true. For example, I think it's Karma Chagme. He explains that there's 3 types of practitioners, and he's talking about people who can obtain Buddhahood in one lifetime. So already we know that it's the highest of the highest. But he says among them, there's 3 types: lowest, middle, and highest. The lowest is like Milarepa. You might be surprised. How is it that Milarepa is lowest? But what he means is that those type of practitioners who actually need total isolation to obtain this highest result. Middle one, he says, like Longchenpa, somebody who can stay in a monastery. Because monastery is still with people, after all. And highest type is like Marpa. Marpa was a lay person with a family. Now, the point is that that's a very difficult situation to really develop shamatha and vipassana or whichever type of meditative attainment one wants to obtain. So that means there is a usual understanding that if one has the opportunity, because that also comes from one's own merit actually, but if one has the opportunity to devote a certain amount to intense solitary meditation, then it is very much encouraged by the Mahayana texts. So this is a point that maybe nowadays we don't always mentally associate with Mahayana, but in fact, yes, it is very much found in the text. And here is one example. So he says this is a teaching for those who are pravivikta, also for those who take up valor, so for valorous people. The word virya is related to vira, which means a hero. So a Mahayana practitioner has to develop a kind of sense of heroism. This heroism is also explained as having a great enthusiasm for virtue. So in order to practice successfully, one should develop that kind of enthusiasm that for both the accumulation of merit and the accumulation of wisdom. Either accumulation cannot be accomplished without that kind of enthusiasm. So again and again one should have virya, one should have chanda, which means this very intense resolution, resolute wish towards practice, because that is what prompts everything. Also, it is for someone who is upasthita smriti. So smriti upasthana, you know these, or satipatthana, you know these words. It means someone who is mindful, someone who applies mindfulness. It's not for somebody who doesn't apply mindfulness. So a bodhisattva practitioner should always apply mindfulness for the practice to have continuity, for bodhicitta not to degenerate, because one has to sustain bodhicitta. So one has to apply mindfulness. It's for somebody who has got samadhi, not for someone who doesn't have samadhi. So bodhisattva practitioner should strive to obtain shamatha. It's for someone who has got prajna, wisdom, not for somebody who doesn't have prajna. What is the synonym of prajna? Vipassana. So we have to remember, wisdom and vipassana are synonyms. It means the ability to see things as they are. This is based on having developed shamatha. Someone who has got samadhi can see things as they are. And so in this text that I am quoting from, it is said that with these 7, now I've listed only 7, the Stavira, Mahamaudgalyayana, was dwelling. He was abiding with these 7 great thoughts, these 7 thoughts of a great person. And then the Buddha went to him and he told him, "Oh, Mahamaudgalyayana, please think of the 8th thought of a great person. This dharma is for someone who is free from elaboration. It's for someone who delights in freedom from elaboration. It's for somebody who practices this delight in freedom of elaboration." So this brought to my mind a verse from the Udana Varga, which might clarify a little bit what is meant by freedom from elaboration. The Udana Varga is something like the Dhammapada, the Sanskrit version, we can say, of the Dhammapada. Akashe tu padam nasti. So, in the sky, there is no footprint. Yeah? In space, there is no footprint. Shramano nasti bahyakaha. There is no outsider, no non-Buddhist who is a genuine Shramana. Prapancha birata balaha. Immature people are attached to or delight in elaboration. Nishprapanchas tathagataha. The Tathagatas, the Buddhas, are free from elaboration. So, the Mahayana practice too is it has a very strong emphasis on freedom from elaboration. Elaboration means concepts, conceptual elaboration. And when it comes to the Mahayana teachings, this is a very broad category. Almost everything that comes to our mind is in an elaboration. Even those things which are in our mind and we don't know, those are also elaborations. So, for example, when Arya Nagarjuna praises the Buddha, he praises the Buddha as the best of speakers. Why is the Buddha the best of speakers? Because he taught dependent arising, pratitya samutpada. And dependent arising has many qualities. You might know the 8 negations at the beginning of the Mula Madhyamakarika, but 2 of the descriptions, one of the description is prapancha upashamam. It is the pacification of elaboration. So, this, when one understands dependent arising, all one's mental elaboration are pacified. This is also the point that we found in that verse in the story of Shantideva. That story is about freedom from elaboration. When Shantideva spoke that verse, you remember Manjushri appeared and he flew into the sky. So that verse is the description of what freedom from elaboration is. So the Mahayana teachings might look like they're very vast, but that's because we have made a lot of elaboration, and all those are antidotes to our elaborations. So they're not meant to make more complications. That is not the point. Actually, the idea is that one should obtain a very genuinely simple mind. But our idea of simplicity might just be an idea. So for that, we need to learn many antidotes. The word which I'm translated as elaboration means that we extend something. We take something which is simple or smaller and we extend it. In a way, even in a deceitful way. That's also one of the meanings of prapancha. And it's a synonym of a mental construct, a concept. So, we can say the Mahayana Dharma is a Dharma for those who delight in simplicity. They delight in simplicity in all possible meanings. You see, when we think of these 8 thoughts of a great person, they have this point in common. They are the simplicity, physical simplicity, like the simplicity of actual outer circumstances, and also simplicity in terms of freedom of elaboration. So this is one feature of the Mahayana Dharma. Okay, I think this is all I wanted to say today. And we can read the dedication of merit so that we can have a longer part for the Avalokiteshvara practice. It's on page 5. I think by now we can say it together with 3 times. Anena punyena tu sarvadarshitam avapya nirjitya cha dosha vidvishaha jararuja mrityumahormi sankulat samudhareyam bhavasagarat jagat anena punyena tu sarvadarshitam avapya nirjitya cha dosha vidvishaha jararuja mrityumahormi sankulat समुद्धरेयं भवसागराज्जगत् अनेन पुण्येन तु सर्वदर्शिताम् अवाप्य निर्जित्य च दोषविद्विषः जरारुजामृत्युमहोर्मिसङ्कुलात् समुद्धरेयं भवसागराज्जगत्